YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, and we got trade scenarios.
Trade scenario.
Trade scenario.
There you go. So basically what we did here, we took a bunch of NFL players that could be traded, possibly, some rumors going around, guys that we expect to be traded, and we came up with scenarios, exact scenarios, what the other team would get in return. I asked some of you to give me suggestions on a post on YouTube. Some of you guys gave me some good ones, so I threw those players in there. We also have free agency predictions. I know some of you were requesting some free agents. We're gonna try to get to more of those. We're predicting landing spots, so we have plenty of that on the channel and plenty more to come. And if you're looking for just draft pick trades, there's gonna be draft picks involved in this, but closer to the draft, we're gonna have draft picks for draft picks, if you know what I mean. Like, the trades that happen during the draft.
Some draft on draft crime.
Yeah, draft on draft action. This is going to be involving NFL players for picks or other players.
Trade scenario.
Yeah, we got that part.
It's my ESPN voice.
Okay, that's good. I like it. Follow our Twitter and our Instagram, links in the description for both of those, both fairly new, so check us out. Go ahead and just check us out.
Yeah.
But let's get on to these trades.
Scenarios.
Yeah. And something to keep in mind, actually, is I put Kyler Murray there because that's potentially what the Raiders could be doing. In this scenario, they're not actually taking Kyler Murray. You can use your imagination. I'm just giving suggestions of what's most likely going to happen. Go ahead, Danny.
So, John Gruden in his offseason, when he wasn't a coach of a team, when he was just an analyst, he was always doing the quarterback camps, right?
Right.
So, in my mind, John Gruden wants to groom his own quarterback. They're a rebuilding team. The Jaguars are also potentially a win-now team with the starting quarterback.
Right.
One of the big needs for the Jaguars would definitely be a wide receiver, which they definitely would want to spend in the first round of the draft. Now that I'm thinking about it, so you have, if the Raiders were to trade Derek Carr and pick number 24 for the Raiders, it's a win-win situation. Jaguars get a starting quarterback day one who's locked up for years for a relatively decent contract, and a 24th pick in the first round to get their wide receiver, and the Raiders get pick number 7 from the Jaguars. That gives the Raiders 2 draft picks in the top 10 of the draft this year. And I don't know. I don't know what you guys think, but I think that's a win-win for both teams.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think you're right on with the Gruden. Gruden's shown that in the past too. As soon as he gets in somewhere, he wants to make his own quarterback, create his own quarterback. So you're right saying that. Could be Kyler Murray, could be Drew Lock, could be Haskins. Doesn't have to be Murray, but I think people would expect Murray in this situation, which is tough because he doesn't really fit a Gruden offense. Maybe it does now. But they would be able to get their guy there, and like you said, the Jags get their quarterback. I think they can win now. They were just in the AFC Championship 2 years ago. It doesn't mean they just can't get back. They definitely can get back.
They have their defense. They need
a
solid quarterback, and they need a solid wide receiver that they can rely on.
24th pick, you definitely can grab a number one receiver there. DK Metcalf's not going to be there, but really take your pick from the rest. Harry would be a steal, and there's a chance he can be there. Marquise Brown, Hakeem Butler, A.J. Brown. There's a list of guys. Everyone knows them that can be there. So I think it's a win-win because the 7th pick is valued pretty high. So the Raiders do get a great pick there, but the Jags get 2 things. I don't know who would win this deal.
I guess it would depend on who the Raiders would draft with those. I mean, again, 2 picks in the top 10, and I think it's fair on both sides. I mean, it depends on how they play, but and if the Raiders even go quarterback with one of those 2 picks, which I would imagine they would if the scenario goes through.
I think because of what the Raiders already have, I think the Raiders win the deal. I think both of them win, but since the Raiders get pick 7, they don't lose. They lose a pick, but they don't lose the amount of picks they have in the first round. And like you said, they have 2 top picks there, and they still have 3 first-round picks. I think because of that, they win. If that was their only pick, then I would question a little bit, but that would be pretty impressive.
But even so, what they could even do is if they're not ready to pick somebody at number 7, they could even trade back
and get even more picks.
And get even more picks. And they have Mayock and they have Gruden, 2 people who, worship the draft basically. So I think it'd be pretty interesting. I don't know what you guys think, Junior.
I mean, this is I like this trade scenario a lot. The Raiders, or Gruden specifically, did come out this week and say they are open to trading their picks, a pick, a pick or picks, whatever. He just said they're open to trading picks, which kind of makes you think a little bit. But I like this. I like that like how we just talked about this is better than Foles. I think this is a better deal.
Oh,
for
and just
the
so we're
Jags.
clear that we're not saying that Foles trade happens and this.
Yes, exactly.
Just so
They're
we're
all
clear.
different. They're all separate. They're all different.
I actually have two that are together. They're at the end.
But I think this is an upgrade over Foles, and I think this way you're still able, like you said, to draft. You're getting a day one quarterback and still a pick in the first round that you can find a nice receiver to pair with D.D. Westbrook, and I like that. I like that a lot. I think this is literally a win-win. Like your little phrase of the day. It's a win-win situation.
It's a win-win situation. I think Derek Carr in that offense could be pretty damn good, especially with those running backs staying healthy. So as long as they get the help from the receivers, I think, you're going to see the Jags in the playoffs again if this happens, in my opinion.
The Jags front office needs to show the players that we want to win. We mean business. And I think them saying they're moving on from Bortles kind of said that. So now they got to make a move for a quarterback.
Yeah.
Even if that's trading to draft one, whatever, make a move.
Their window is still open. We saw their window open last year. This year it was not so much. And if they're going to go away from oh my God, what's his name? You just said his name. Bortles. Thank you. I was about to say Foles, but they're going to go away from Bortles, and their defense window is wide open right now. There's question marks around their offense, and if they get Derek Carr and a solid receiver, they have a great running game. I think this is a possibility.
I like it. Since we kind of mentioned Kyler Murray, we'll kind of stay on that page a little bit. An interesting one that's been brought up is the Cardinals could trade the first overall, or could trade Rosen so they can use the first overall pick for Kyler Murray. So this scenario I came up with, I think the Redskins would be a team looking for Josh Rosen. Why? Because they could want a young quarterback. They got Alex Smith coming back possibly next year, but he's not the long-term answer. Maybe he's never the answer because of the injury. They want a young quarterback. This draft class isn't great with the quarterbacks, but they also pick 15th overall, so they're not going to be able to get unless they trade up. So this could be a great scenario, and they can get a young quarterback in Josh Rosen, who was just a first-round pick a year ago. And what they would give up, in my opinion, it's tough to come up with this. It's tough to predict what they would have to give up. But I came up with the 15th overall pick and a third-round pick. Rosen still, he had a bad year, but, bad situation, got thrown in there, not the best team around him, and he has a high ceiling, a lot of potential. So I think the 15th overall pick was a little later where they drafted him last year, and then add a third round pick on top of it, and the Cardinals can take their guy Kyler Murray with the first overall pick, and then they have the 15th overall pick to get that defense that they need, or offensive line, either one. So scenario that just popped in my head, they get Kyler Murray with the first overall pick, and then with 15th they get Cody Ford, who was Kyler Murray's right tackle, with that pick. So that'd be very interesting.
Jeez.
I think it's a little much.
Giving up too much for Rosen?
Yeah. The Skins have, they played well for the majority of the year, but I still feel like they have some holes that they need to fill on that roster.
Yeah, but if they do want to draft a quarterback, if they miss out on free agency, they're going to have to trade up from 15 most likely to get a decent one. And they're going to have to give up. They'll probably end up giving up more than the third round. They'll probably have to move up. They swap picks with somebody, 15 to inside the top 10, just inside the top 10. They may have to give up a second-round pick. We'll see what they do. So this might be a little bit of a steal. That's why they actually might have to give up more in this for Rosen. I think this was like best-case scenario for the Redskins, but it also makes sense because if the Cardinals want to make this move, it's pretty obvious that they want to go with Kyler Murray. So they don't really want to start Rosen, so he's going to be on the bench anyways. I don't think this actually happens. I think it's a possibility. I think we had to make a scenario here because it's been brought up a lot. But yeah. But you still think it's a little much?
I'm with Danny. I do think it's much. I do think it's a little much. But like you said, the ceiling on Rosen is what's gonna. That's why his value is through the roof.
Yeah, I think just the 1 year he had, I think is sticking in people's minds.
And he didn't play a full year.
I think learning under Alex Smith is going to be really good for him too. So I don't want to take any away from that, but it's just giving up your first round pick and a third round pick. That's tough. But I understand what you're saying. Where if they're trying to, if the Skins are trying to move up for a quarterback, they're probably gonna have to give up more if they're just moving up a couple spots just to hop in front of somebody. So,
yeah,
it's tough.
I mean, I like the Cardinals. I would like the Cardinals pairing Kingsbury with Kyler Murray here. I like that a lot, but like you said, I don't think it's happening.
All right,
you got to show confidence in the young guy, Rosen. That is.
Move on to another quarterback trade. Another one I think is, on the unlikely side, but could be interesting. It's Andy Dalton, and it was with the Redskins as well. I couldn't find a fit for somebody wanted me to do a trade scenario for Andy Dalton, and I'm not doing it just because somebody asked me to. I mean, I've taken suggestions, and I want to give you guys what you want, but I do think it's somewhat realistic, too, at the same time, paired with that, because the Bengals could be looking to go in a different direction, get a quarterback of the future, because the defense is rebuilding, so and they got a young running back, so it could happen. And just trying to think of what his value is. So, Redskins are the only ones I think would make this deal because, again, they're picking 15th. They might not be able to draft, the quarterback they want unless they trade up, but they could stick at 15, get some defense or get offensive line or get a receiver and then trade for Dalton. I said third and fifth round pick. I was back and forth. Originally, I had a second round pick in here and then maybe a later pick, but then I kind of thought of the Foles value right now too. I still think Andy Dalton's good. I think Foles is better, but I think Andy Dalton is still good. The difference is the Eagles would pretty much have to trade Foles almost. They don't really 100% need to, but that's the difference to me. I think the Bengals will stick with Dalton. I think they'll like him, but I do think there's a chance. And a guy that I thought the Bengals could bring in would be a guy like Will Grier, but they probably would need a first-round quarterback to replace him unless they got a free agent. But Will Grier, to me, is a fit to the Bengals. But in this situation, they might be able to pick him up in the third round. He possibly can go second round, but maybe get a free agent, and Will Grier can learn under him. To me, it's a fit. It's something they may want to do for the future. But, yeah, again, they could be – if they move on from Dalton, they could be looking at free agents. They could be looking at a first-round quarterback. Thoughts?
I think the – trade amount, the third round pick and the fifth round pick I think that's suitable for what Andy Dalton is. I think that's a good estimate of what he's worth. I don't know, man.
That's all you got?
Yeah. I think it's feasible. It's definitely feasible.
I would love to see Andy Dalton in a new environment, new team.
I would too.
He needs that. He literally needs that. Like,
he does have really good receivers, though.
He needs. I think you put him in a different system, different team, with worse receivers, he'll play better. Honestly, I think that's the Bengals system is what.
Well, they do have the new coach.
Like the new coach and stuff could change things, but like he stayed the same year after year. The team itself stayed the same and did nothing in terms of progress. They made nothing.
That's true. I think even him, because like early on, he's like, this guy's good right now. He's gonna be real good, but he kind of stayed the same, maybe a little better. So I never really thought of that. That's true. So yeah, it could be interesting. I don't think if I had to put money on it, it don't happen, but I think it's a possibility because new offense or new coach, new offense, new scheme. They could be moving on, different quarterback. Could be looking to get one first round, like I said, free agency. Could be looking to get a guy like Grier. We'll see. We will see. Moving on to another trade here, Antonio Brown. I have two scenarios for Antonio Brown. A couple of us liked him going to the Packers. We thought that was likely. I think pretty simple here. This is pretty, not much going on here, but I think this is what makes sense. I think the Steelers can get pick 30 overall from the Packers, which they have from the Saints, and the Packers get Antonio Brown. He's an elite talent. You would think maybe more, but again, here's a situation where they may have to trade him. He's also up there in age. It's an off-the-field issue, so maybe he doesn't even go for a first round, or maybe it's a second and a fourth or a fifth or something like that. But and I have another scenario coming up here, but I think it's pretty simple. Antonio Brown for pick 30. The Packers have another first round earlier in this, so they can afford to do this. Their offense or their team could be in win now mode. It should be because Rodgers is there, and get a guy like Antonio Brown. And then I put his cousin up there, Marquise Brown, who's in the draft. I think the Steelers, maybe he won't be there at pick 30. It's questionable, but I think he would be a good replacement. It's possible. Well, they have another pick too. They have pick 20, so I think that could be a good replacement. I was looking for that type of player there, but they can grab receiver, or they can forget about the receiver because they have Juju Smith-Schuster and they have James Washington. They're very good at hitting on receivers past the first round. So with those two first-round picks, they can get maybe the biggest need. They need a corner and they need a linebacker. They can grab both of those. And there's plenty to choose from, really. Well, in the corner situation, but not really the linebacker. But so it should be interesting.
I think it really depends on what the market's going to be asking for Antonio Brown. But if they got presented with this, if the Packers presented them pick 30 for Antonio Brown, and that's the best offer, I would do that in a heartbeat. They'd be stupid not to.
I don't think they would do pick 30 straight up for Antonio Brown
when they have two first-round picks.
I would do it, but I don't think that.
Wait.
I don't think the Steelers would do it.
You don't think the Steelers would do it
Right.
for a first round pick?
I think they're gonna. I think right now, they honestly think they can get more. They have to think that, and because right now their price in their head is way more than the 30th pick.
They're gonna cut a lot of cap doing this though too.
Right.
So I actually think it would be a win.
I would do it if I was either team. I'm doing this.
I think the Steelers win this because he does. I don't really like his attitude at the moment, but I guess that's just with the Steelers. I think there's a boatload of good receivers in this draft, so I think you can draft one. But the Packers' sake, they are trying to win now. They're trying to rebuild the defense, though. It's tough. I think the Steelers win because I think I wouldn't. If I was the GM of the Packers, I wouldn't give a first rounder for him. I wouldn't do it. It's. I would definitely think about it.
What did the Packers trade to get that 30th pick?
They traded They traded back last year.
They traded back last year.
The Saints traded way up, and
I mean, if you think about it, that's a great deal for the Packers. So if they were presented this, they should take it in a heartbeat. It's a win-win for both teams because we don't know what the Steelers' future is because they're definitely on the decline. They have a lot of holes on their defense. They have to figure out what they're doing with Roethlisberger if they're going to continue with him.
That maybe the 20th or the 30th pick will be used for a quarterback.
It
in the future.
very well could be. So Packers are in desperate win now mode. Their window is closing shut, and Antonio Brown could reopen it real quick for them.
Yeah, I do think it's a win-win. I just would like the Steelers one a little better.
Actually, if there was one trade to happen out of this list, it would be this one right here.
We're not even done though.
We're not even done.
But
Trade scenarios.
Don't the Packers have the most picks in this draft?
Oh yeah,
They're not losing a single pick here. Or they're losing one pick.
but they're getting a player.
And they're getting a player.
But you also understand is that there's going to be a lot of other people that are going to – it depends on the bidding war. If there's going to be a lot of people bidding on Antonio Brown, they're going to give up more. So if it's just, a second and a third – would you rather have a second and a third rounder or just a pick?
Well, I have another scenario here.
Let's go.
It is the Niners because the Niners have been the team I think most talked about with this, but they have the second overall pick. You're not trading the second overall pick for Antonio Brown. So what would they have to do? I did it like this here. I said a second and a fourth. That's 2 picks though, and you can definitely get a day one starter in the fourth. So because of that, I think one needs to be sent back to the Niners, but it's a later round pick, 6th round pick. And Antonio Brown, of course, goes to the Niners. A guy that I like for the Steelers, to another receiver that they can grab. He could possibly go first round, but early second, I think they can get with. That's a very early second round pick from the Niners. Is Deebo Samuel from South Carolina. I think he can do a lot of things, kind of like Antonio Brown did. Not quite as fast, but it seems like a fit to me. So that's a possibility.
Now going back to the last trade scenario, would you do this or would you do the other?
I would do the last one.
The first round pick.
Yeah.
So now if the Steelers are just trying to gain picks, they could also present this back to the Packers and be like, hey, well, maybe if you include like a 5th round pick, this will get this done. Or maybe
and I want to say the Packers pick is 30th overall, and the Niners pick is 36th overall. So that second round pick
that's
right there. So you're actually getting more here. I mean, you're getting more, but it's only 6 spots back. And I actually consulted the trade value chart, which every single draft pick has a value to it. And I had to predict the Packers one from scratch, obviously, so I did 30 for Antonio Brown. And this is actually equal to the 30th overall pick. So second and fourth, while giving them 6th, is equal in terms of value to, according to the charts, to the 30th overall pick. But to me, this actually looks better. In terms of value, you're getting more players here.
That's fair. I didn't realize that they were six spots away. So if San Francisco offers this deal, Steelers would definitely go back to the. I mean, it's a bidding war at the end of the day. You're going to see them fighting for him, and these two teams are definitely going to be fighting for Antonio Brown. So, I think if they get this scenario, they might go to the Packers and say, "What can you offer?"
Yeah.
So then they can come back and say, "All right, I'll give you the 30th overall pick, and then a 5th round pick, or even the 4th round pick. It could work that way."
Yeah.
So I mean, both of these are definitely options, but if I'm Antonio Brown and after his meeting with the owner, he might be like, hey, send me the Packers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You might.
I don't know. I think
collusion.
If I'm the owner, I'm going to try to screw him. I'm going to get my best value.
Well,
They
Well,
talked.
they're going to get their best. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to get my best value, but if it's as close or has how you said even, I'm going to screw him and send him to the worst team. I wouldn't send him there with Aaron Rodgers. Even though
what kind of GM are you?
Even though he'd be successful here, the team, we don't actually, Jimmy G, we don't know how he's going to come back with his knee. But obviously, if he comes back full health and how we think he's going to come back, they're still going to be good. Both teams are good.
To me, this would be the better deal because you're 6 spots back. You get a fourth. You do go up to 6, but you get a fourth. You get that extra pick out of it. And, we see what happens with these rookies these days. A guy in the 4th round can make an instant impact. Difference is the first-round picks get the team option at the end of their contract. So that's really the title of having that extra first-round guy. You get that team player option, or that team option. So that's really the difference. But you do get the extra 4th round here. So that'd be interesting. I think both Packers, Niners, a couple other teams are definitely in the running, but I'd say the Packers, Niners, I think they're definitely making offers for Antonio Brown, maybe right now, as we speak. Moving on. Let's go to a couple corners that could be traded. Patrick Peterson, he was kind of rumored to be possibly traded during the season. He wanted out. He's kind of cleared that up, said he wants to stay, but you never know. It's a rebuilding team. So I thought this was an option. It's bringing up the Steelers again. I think this is something that only happens if they trade Antonio Brown because it clears the cap so they can actually do this. I think Patrick Peterson to the Steelers, and I think in return the Cardinals get the Steelers' original first-round pick, which is 20th overall. But, again, I think Antonio Brown trade is going to happen. It would have to happen for something like this to happen because it clears the cap. And the Steelers still have a first-round pick or second and fourth-round pick, whatever, from the Antonio Brown deal. But and the Cardinals get the 20th overall pick. They can take a corner there, a guy that somewhat resembles out of the corners in the draft class that the Cardinals would have a chance to get at 20. Could possibly go a little earlier. Is Greedy Williams from LSU? So it's a possibility there. So
I think you're definitely going to see a Patrick Peterson trade this year. I just don't know if it's going to be to the Steelers.
You think it's going to happen this offseason? Or you think it's going to happen? You're saying by trade deadline?
By trade deadline. At some point, I think we're going to see a Patrick Peterson trade. Wasn't there rumors that they might be doing it last year?
Yeah, last year it was. Yeah, he wanted out.
He literally came out and made a public. He came out and made a statement. At first, he came out and said he wanted out. Then he made a statement saying he wants to stay. It was in a matter of 2 weeks. Yeah.
No, he said he was sorry a couple weeks ago, actually, but
still,
at the time he was like back and forth. Yeah.
I don't know if the Steelers, again, their window is closing shut. Why are they going to trade a first-round pick for a, latter ages of 20s, 28 years old, while they trade him for a 28-year-old, corner when you don't know your future? That's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do this. I think that's a little much.
20th overall.
Yeah,
I think he's one of the best corners in the league. But
I agree. I agree. But if we were on the boat that like how Riz was saying that Antonio Brown, he wouldn't give a first rounder for him. This is.
Well, I think it's more of the
value of it.
I guess the attitude. What Peterson said he wanted out too, but I didn't really escalate all that much. But
not even
Brown's
close.
Also going to be 31, and he's also has an off the field issue. Patrick Peterson, I think. After he's probably the best corner in football, and the Steelers. Even though we think, they're kind of in decline a little bit, the Steelers, that organization, every coach, every guy in the front office, they think they can win right now. And finally getting a number one corner in there, even if you're losing Antonio Brown, because you still have Juju Smith-Schuster who's getting better. You have James Washington, who I think highly of. They drafted last year. They think highly of. They think they can win now. Now, if you get a corner, and their problem hasn't been offense. Their problem has been defense. And it hasn't been terrible, but it could be better. So if they get a number one corner, they got to think this can get them a Super Bowl. So I think it's realistic. I don't know. Maybe 20 is. I value my draft picks, so it's tough. I don't know if I would actually do it if I was Steelers, but I think they got to believe that they can win a Super Bowl with a guy like Patrick Peterson, so I think they would do it. Another one that was actually requested, and I heard some rumors too, is Xavier Rhodes. So I had Rhodes going to the Raiders for the 27th overall pick. It's a tough one, too, because there's a couple teams that could have sent him to that has a lot of cap that can get his contract in there. It's through, which is a good thing. His contract's actually good at this point because it's through 2023. That's a great thing. So like Raiders, Colts are really that popped in my head. But it's tough because I don't know if a team will trade a first rounder for him, but that's definitely what the Vikings are going to need to send him away. So I did like a later first round pick here, the 27th overall. If the Vikings do this, I don't think they will. If they do it, they're realizing that there's more important things than corner. They will need a corner still, but they go with the offensive line, a guy like Dalton Reiser from Kansas State with the 27th overall pick because they need offensive line, which I do think they'll look at free agency. But the Raiders, getting rid of 27 for a corner like this, the top corners that for sure could play may be gone by this point at pick 27. So a guy like Rhodes, who you could argue could be the best corner in football. I think the Raiders would like to have him there for the 27th overall pick, and they can focus the rest of the draft and what they already picked on receivers, defensive linemen, and linebackers.
How old is Xavier Rhodes?
I think he's about, I would be guessing. I'm not good with the ages. He's upper 20s, higher 20s.
He's 28 years old. So, is it the rumors that the Vikings are looking to go away with him, or the fact that I missed the opening of your... Is the Raiders interested in him? I know the Raiders need a corner.
The rumors that the Vikings would trade him, even though I don't think they really want... Well, it's because he sat out of some games, kept coming out of some games, so I think maybe Zimmer's had enough of him with that, so maybe they can move on. I think if somebody offered even if it was a second-round pick and more, I don't think they would do it. I think it would have to be a first-round... I don't know if they would even do it for the 27th overall pick. But I don't know if another team would give up a first-round pick.
I'm going to go out on a whim here and say I doubt that the Vikings are going to trade Xavier Rhodes, so he's captain of that defense. I think it'd be tough to go away from him.
I don't think you could open the roads. You have to keep them closed.
There you go. Got to keep
them
closed.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, somebody requested this one, and I've been seeing a lot of rumors for it too, so this is kind of what I came up with here. I think it's more likely that a different Vikings corner gets traded, and that's Trey Wayne. So I have him going to the Texans, and I have the Vikings getting a second-round pick. The Texans have 2 second-round picks. They're both on the later side. They have 2 in a row, actually. This will be the later one, we'll say. And the Texans get a 6th-round pick back. To me, I'm a Vikings fan. I wouldn't want Trey Waynes to go. I actually think he was our best corner last year. I think Rhodes is our best corner, but I think Trey Waynes is very good. Not very good. He's good. I think, people put too much on him from his first couple years. He struggled a little bit, but he's very solid. I think one of the better tackling corners in football, too. And he was actually in the draft where the Texans took Kevin Johnson. Trey Waynes was known as the better prospect. The Texans are going to move on from Kevin Johnson. They need more corners. And this is a great trade to me. I thought about the Colts for this one, too. This is a great trade for both teams because even though as a Vikings fan, I want Trey Waynes on my team still, his contract's up after this year. The Vikings may not be able to pay him. The Texans definitely can pay him. They definitely have the room to pay him, and I think Waynes will be a little better than a second-round corner this year. Maybe the second-round corner has a lot of potential, but Waynes is still coming off his rookie contract, so he has potential too. A guy I put up there for the Vikings to possibly replace him with, a guy that I think they'll like, is Rocky Sin from Temple, 2nd or 3rd-round pick. So, yeah. I think this is more likely than the Rhodes one.
If I'm the Vikings, I do this one over the Rhodes one. Yeah. I think I shop Waynes over Rhodes.
It was tough to figure out a pick they would get in return. I was thinking 3rd, but it's the Texans were a playoff team, a little on the later side, so I'd say 2nd, but it's hard to predict.
What do you think the Vikings would use for that second-round draft pick? Would you think it's going to be another DB, or do you think they have offensive line issues depending on what they get in the first round?
I think
because don't they like Mackenzie Alexander?
Well, he's in the slot, but they have. If they got rid of Waynes, they would have Rhodes, they would have Hughes, and they would have Holton Hill. So that's a pretty good group. But Rhodes was hurt a lot this year. Hughes tore his ACL. So I think they would need to get another one. But would they get one with the second-round pick? It's tough to say. But I think between their first round and their second-round pick, I think they might, because I'm predicting them to get a couple offensive linemen in free agency. So they may actually not use a first or second-round pick on offensive line. We're going to see, but
I think this would be a fair trade for both teams. Trey Waynes, again, had a great year last year, but, you're getting a lot in return for him, and then they can revamp a few things about their entire, team relatively to the offense and the defense. So I think it's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this one's more likely to happen than the Rhodes one, but never know. Never know. Moving on. There's rumors that John Ross is on the trading block. Bengals are shopping him. They're talking with other teams. The Combine's great because it's for other teams. They're all in one place, too, so they're all talking, and they're come up with some kind of deal. So this could actually happen. He was just a first-round pick a little bit ago. I got him going to the Patriots. They traded Brandon Cooks. I think he's not as good, but he's a similar situation. The Patriots seem to trade for receivers a lot. I thought a 4th-round pick. Yeah, he was just a first-round pick a few years ago, but has been hurt. The injury thing is what's key. One thing, if he hasn't been good on the Bengals, the Patriots and the Bengals would both know he'd probably be pretty good on the Patriots, but the injury thing comes up. So I think a 4th-round pick is what makes sense, and the fact that the Bengals are shopping him. Teams aren't coming to the Bengals about taking him. So I think a 4th-round pick makes sense. And they don't really need Ross. They got pretty good receivers. That's why that pick was a little surprising at the time even. They need defense. They need linebackers. So I didn't know he was high picks for linebackers, but a guy that I think could be a fourth-round linebacker pick is Jermaine Pratt from NC State, very athletic linebacker. They could be using a guy like that. But I think they're in the market for a linebacker in the first, second round too. So I look for them to get multiple defensive players like that, maybe a quarterback in the future, maybe some more offensive line.
I think this is definitely a feasible trade option here. So, I mean, Patriots get those, crafty wide receivers that can run short routes. I mean, John Ross is also a burner too. Yeah. I just don't see Tom Brady throwing it over the defense unless he's wide open. But as far as those short routes, being a good route runner, John Ross can be that for the Patriots. And the Bengals, who are pretty much rebuilding the majority of the roster, this could be a solid trade for them because, like you said, they don't need him.
Yeah, there was actually a team I liked that came to mind first before the Patriots for John Ross, and that was the Saints. Another guy that had Brandon Cooks too. It could be that type of guy that they're missing in their offense. Saints, unfortunately don't have a whole bunch of picks, so it's kind of hard for me to make it happen here. But I do like Ross with the Saints too. But since the Patriots have a fourth-round pick, I think that makes sense here.
What if Gordon came back finally and it's just Gordon, Edelman, and John Ross? That'd be insane.
Pretty good.
That'd be absolutely insane.
But then you got Ross, who could be off the field because of injuries, and Gordon because of off-the-field issues.
Patriots players don't get injured, okay?
True. What are they doing?
They play through their injuries.
They're getting massages.
Right. The players are getting them?
Can we do a
Why
skit
do you
about
think they're
that?
not getting hurt?
How are we going to do that one?
All right, moving on.
Another receiver that could be traded is Deshaun Jackson. I got Deshaun Jackson going to the Titans for a fourth-round pick. You may say, well, John Ross went for a fourth. I think Deshaun Jackson's a little better. That's true, but he is getting up there in age. Doesn't really have a ceiling left to him. He still can be very good. And I think he's kind of demanding to be out. We almost get the feel that he might be cut because he's just demanding it. Maybe it's a little different with Bruce Arians there now, so we'll see. But since they pretty much would have to trade him, or if they get nothing, I think a fourth-round pick is definitely the Bucs would like it. A guy that, in that range, maybe more in the fifth-round range, that could be somewhat similar to him as Emmanuel Hall from Missouri. So, they could lose Humphreys in free agency too. But getting rid of Jackson clears some space too, so that can be a good thing. But the Titans definitely need receivers. They're missing a guy like Deshaun Jackson. I think it'd be great in that offense. So I think this makes a lot of sense to me.
I mean, I would do this. If I'm the Titans, I would do this, and I would also still look at free agent receivers. I would,
or in the draft. Yeah.
Or in the draft. They need to upgrade that wide receiver position.
Personally, I would stay away from Deshaun Jackson if I'm the Titans.
I like Deshaun Jackson.
I like Deshaun Jackson too, but he's 32 years old. I wouldn't trade a fourth-round pick when there's still holes on your team. I think they could get a pretty solid wide receiver in the late rounds. We talked about free agency videos, and I think that if they go after those top name free agents, I think that's a better option than trading a fourth-round pick for him. Guy's 32 years old. He's going to take up some cap. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
Okay.
Seems to be just you here.
We'll see what the comments have to say.
Yeah, it's all about those comments.
Trade scenarios.
Let's move on to Nick Perry, the Packers edge rusher. He's on the trade market here. He could be, and here's the Bucs again. I thought the Bucs made a lot of sense. The Bucs are projected to switch to a 3-4 with Todd Bowles coming in there. They don't have a lot of guys, in terms of pass for edge rush, ready for the 3-4. Their best pass rusher was Jason Pierre-Paul. There's questions, can he play in a 3-4? I'm doubting him a little bit. He's a very good pass rusher, but so they really need to retool quickly, guys that know how to play the spot there, because their offense can compete. Their offense definitely can compete they need a running back, but so they'll be in the market for a guy like Nick Perry. And the Packers want to get rid of the contract's a little high. That's the bad thing about Nick Perry. He can play. He was hurt this year. The contract's a little high. The Packers can get a fourth-round pick in return, dumping that cap. Get more draft picks. They've been drafting very well on defense. A guy that came to mind instantly when talking replacement for an edge rusher that could possibly fourth-round pick was Jace Winovich from Michigan. He's kind of got that Clay Matthews look already. I
already hate him. As a Bears fan, I already hate him. He's got the hair.
He has an injury situation right now. He's going to be good to go for the season. He's supposed to be good to go for the season, but probably would be a second-round pick if it wasn't the case. So I think getting him in the fourth round makes a lot of sense. And it makes sense for the Bucs to me, too. I like this trade, but the contract of Nick Perry is what I don't like, but that's why his talent may be better in the 4th round. Could be 2nd or 3rd round, but because of the contract, it's a 4th round pick.
I think this is a win-win for both teams here. I think Nick Perry, his first couple of years, he was actually pretty solid, and I think he kind of phased out a little bit. But, I mean, giving a second chance in a different team that fits around you, and I think that could be pretty solid for the Bucs. Packers getting a 4th round picks. They're going to be insane with a lot of draft picks. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yep.
I just got a notification that the Falcons plan to keep Vic Beasley for 2019. Just thought I'd add that.
Wow.
Did somebody just text you?
Do we have a Vic
somebody
Beasley situation?
Somebody just texted you, right?
Yeah.
We'll go ahead and break the news to ESPN. So if you got that, we broke the news, not ESPN.
Okay.
All right. We ready to move on?
Yep.
We're ready to move on.
I got a Jordan Howard scenario here because that's been I don't know if it happens, but it's been a little bit of talk. I got him going to the Jets along with the 7th round pick, and the Bears get a 3rd round pick. I was originally kind of thinking 4th round, but he's better than that. So I threw the 3rd round in there, but I gave a 7th round back in return. And the Bears, I know Danny would like a guy like Elijah Holyfield. He may be a 2nd round pick, but there's a chance he can be in the 3rd round. They can get a guy like that to replace him. Thing with Howard is, his contract's up after this year, and they need all the cap they can get, but they've been doing a pretty good job. They restructured Kyle Long. They cut the right guys so far. So they may not need that extra $2 million cap, but are they going to be able to pay him next year? Do they think they can easily replace him in the draft? With Holyfield would be a damn good replacement. And I think the Jets make sense, too. And this is kind of if they missed out on Bell and Tevin Coleman, which I think is a possibility because they can offer the money. They also don't want to overpay at the same time. And there's also other teams that may be more appealing. So I think it's realistic. If they miss on those, they may be wanting to go for Howard. I mean, would you rather overpay like a Tevin Coleman or just go trade a 3rd rounder?
Trade a 3rd
Howard.
rounder. Well, the problem is, here's the problem. We don't have a lot of draft picks to begin with. So our first pick in the draft, again, I'm a Bears fan, so the Bears' first pick in the draft is going to be in the 3rd round. So we'd be forfeiting that. No, excuse me, I'm confusing myself now.
You're getting two. You're going to have 2 then. So then
yes,
upgrade
excuse me. Yes, thank you. But again, Jordan Howard doesn't really fit that offense for the Bears. I like this scenario, especially if Holyfield is there. I would take him in a heartbeat.
So it's kind of a wait and see thing if he's there, or you think that? I think it's something happens before.
I think it. Well, here's the thing. So you don't know if you're going to get him. If it happens before, they're going to have to sign a veteran running back to basically take over as the starting running back for the time being. I don't know who that would be. If it's a draft thing, you have to know that he's going to be there in the 3rd round, which, based on the parameters of this trade, could be possible.
I think if they do it before, I think it's just they're not focused on one guy. I think they know they can grab a guy, whether it's 3rd, 4th, or 5th round.
If I know anything about the Jets, they really do enjoy the Bears' former running backs. They had Matt Forte.
I was literally going to say something about that.
Yeah,
there you
wow,
go.
You're good. I don't know. If I'm the Bears, I'm shopping Howard. I'm shopping him pretty heavily. I would like two third rounders would be nice.
Two third
rounders?
No. I'm saying like them having.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like they don't get one like Danny was saying. They don't get a pick until the 3rd round. But then if they have 2 in that round, I think that's a good way of kind of making up for it, and they can get some instant impact players. And they need somebody. Howard and Cohen work together. It's a good little duo. But I think that you can find a duo that fits the system better. Again, like Danny was saying, that you can pair with Cohen. So I don't know.
I'm very high on Holyfield. Where did I rank him? My number 1.
He's your number 1 running back.
I watched this guy play, and I was impressed. I know he didn't play full time, but
he may not be there in the 3rd round. There's a chance.
Those Georgia running backs, though.
Yeah, those Georgia running backs, though. And we got a few Georgia Bulldogs on our roster too. Maybe you could tank it in the combine and follow the 3rd round. That's what we're hoping for. But I mean, the Bears, Ryan Pace isn't opposed to. Yeah, we could DM. Yeah, Ryan Pace isn't opposed to trading back in. I mean, you saw how the Bears got Anthony Miller. They traded back in for the 2nd round. So I would expect to maybe it's not this scenario, but I would definitely expect the Bears to be trying to trade back into specific rounds for specific people.
Yeah. Good thoughts.
So they like their fits. I would imagine some teams probably have like a really small board. They find the guys that exactly fit, and they go trade for them if they have to have them. So
I would more expect if this was to happen, I would more expect it to happen draft night because they would have to sign a veteran running back in case they don't get the guy that they want to get.
But trading players is something you don't really see on draft.
Well, I think teams that do trades like this, they do it before, and it's because they have a number of guys that they will like whether we have Elijah Holyfield in the 3rd round, or maybe we have to trade up in the late 2nd to get him. And then we have like a Dexter Williams. We like him if he's sitting there in the 4th round. Benny Snell if he's sitting there in the 5th round. So maybe they have a couple guys like that where if they start to run out, that's when they trade up. So if they missed out on Holyfield, you don't want to miss out on the better players. That's the tough part. But if they missed out and Holyfield's gone, we have to. Our list is starting to get smaller. We have to get one of these next guys that we definitely like, and then they trade up for one of those. So I don't know. We'll see. I feel like he's not going to get – I think it's a possibility, but I don't think he does – I don't know if he gets traded.
I'm leaning toward not getting traded as well, but I like me some Holyfield.
Okay. All right. Let's do a Matt Stafford trade. Unlikely, but it's an interesting one. Now, you guys may be surprised. Before I pull it up, what would you trade for Matt? What would you trade for Matt Stafford? This is going to be bad because it's
well, he has a good deal now compared to some of these
still
deals
up there, but yeah.
Yeah.
But or what do you think he should be traded for, and what would you trade for him?
I think
this was hard to make because this is what I think would actually happen.
I think he's going to. The Lions are going to get like a 2nd rounder. I think they honestly would get a second, at least that. They're gonna. I think they'd get like a haul, like a pretty decent haul.
Well, a haul would be like.
I think they're going to be trying for.
Picks. I
think they're certainly going to be trying for a 1st round or a 2nd round pick. I highly doubt they're going to get a 1st rounder, and I don't even know if they would get a 2nd rounder.
I don't have them getting a haul. I only have them getting 1 pick, and I actually have them giving up a pick.
Wow.
But I have them getting the 13th overall pick from the Miami Dolphins, but they get a 3rd round back. And this is tough because why do they get a 3rd round back? Because why did the Dolphins get one back? It's because the 13th is a very, very high pick, But that's what the Lions are going to need for him. And he's kind of he's a developed quarterback. You know what you're going to get from him. I think the Dolphins are a team that would like him too. So that's what I came up with. 13th is pretty high, but then you give that 3rd round back. But for some reason, I think the Dolphins they got Caldwell over there. Actually, now that I think about it, they got him as that's maybe that's why I'm thinking of it. Yeah, Caldwell is the offense coordinator. He was with the Lions for a while. And then a guy that the Lions can get, Drew Lock. He's getting some Stafford comparisons. I'm not really seeing it personally, so that's not why I put him up here. If you trade Stafford, I think you'd want to go away from Stafford, so you wouldn't get his comparison. I don't have the comparison. I think it's the guy that would fit that 13 range, may go a little earlier. So, yeah, what do you think?
How many more years left do you think Stafford's going to play?
I don't think that's really a question with this.
You don't think so?
No.
I guess quarterbacks do last longer than anybody else.
I think he's got plenty of years still. But, I mean, I guess your question is how many years is he going to play at a starting caliber level maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think because he didn't play too good this year, but definitely as a starting quarterback.
I mean, he still moves like he's young for the most part. I think he could play well, but 13th overall pick, yeesh.
You do get a 3rd rounder.
That's tough. I mean,
because you know what you're going to get from him too. You don't know what you're going to get from these quarterbacks. I think that's what you would have to do. I'm not saying I would do it. I wouldn't do it. I value draft picks. 13's pretty high, but this is what would have to be done.
It depends how desperate the Dolphins are. If they don't like any of these quarterbacks, maybe they do. Maybe they do go after them.
And it's tough too because
it really depends on their scouting department. If they feel confident about one of these picks,
but
they're going to go after him.
You don't even know if you're going to get that guy either.
That's true. But then you have to trade up. Yeah, you might have to trade up.
Quarterbacks, teams always trade up for quarterbacks. I saw, the last how many quarterbacks drafted? I forget the exact stat, but the last 10 or so quarterbacks drafted were all traded. The pick was traded for, besides like one.
Wow.
So yeah.
I don't know. I can't comment about this one. I just think the 13th overall pick, it's tough. I mean, you can make it work with more other picks in different rounds, but it depends on how desperate the Dolphins are. If they are going to go after a veteran quarterback, this is the way to do it, and that all depends on one, if they like any of the guys in the draft and they want to move up into the draft to get them. If that happens.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm the Lions, I think I at least ask around about Stafford.
Yeah,
I kind of
they don't have to trade him.
But gauge the market. Gauge the market. I think they can get a pretty good deal for him. I don't think Stafford for me falls into that same category as Dalton. I think a change of scenery would help him more than it would hurt him, and just seeing different things. And this is kind of like new scenery, but similar system that he's used to.
I could
so
see
he
him.
won't be that far out of.
Here's the thing with the Lions, though, that I'm kind of thinking of now. I don't know if the Lions would do this, really. And there's been rumors that they could trade him, and they haven't ruled out drafting a quarterback. I guess haven't ruled out drafting a quarterback doesn't mean they're trading Stafford, but there's been rumors of that. But the Lions, what's their mindset in that front office? I think they can win now. I'm looking at the team. That defense played really good at the end of the year. They got the new coach in there. Patricia's very good. They got young talent all over that defense. Offense, they have good receivers. They finally got a running back, Kerryon Johnson. Offense line stout if healthy. It's realistic this team can win a division. I'm not going to say they're going to win a Super Bowl, but I'm a confident person. If I'm in that staff, I think we can do it. And if you trade away Stafford and go rookie quarterback, you're probably not going to contend. So it could be a bad thing.
It's a tough division.
Yep.
I don't know.
All right, we got a few more here. How about a Russell Wilson one? There's been rumors that he wants to play for the Giants. Don't know how true that is. He could be traded. How many picks for Russell Wilson?
Oh, he's gonna get a. I'm not gonna say a truck full, but he's gonna get a wheelbarrow full.
Okay.
A wheelbarrow full.
Yeah.
I think it would be more than this, but his contract's up after this next year, so I think that kind of brings it down a little bit. So this is what I got here. I got him going to the Giants, and remember the Giants do have the 6th overall pick. So I have the 6th overall pick going to the Seahawks. I have a 2nd-round pick this year, a 1st-round pick in 2020, and a 1st-round pick in 2021. We're talking about an elite quarterback here, maybe the best player in football with the right weapons around him. I think he's worth more than this even. I know that's 3 first-round picks, and one is the 6th overall and a 2nd-round pick. I think he's worth more, maybe even another 1st-rounder, maybe another 2nd-rounder, I should say, for 2020. But, yeah, the end of the contract. But if he really wants to go to the Giants, they would know that he's going to sign an extension. So, this is part 1, too. I kind of have a 2-parter to this. The Seahawks would only do the 2nd one if this happened. So, yeah, this is what I came up with. And the obvious choice would be Kyler Murray here. And maybe it would be. I'm not saying no. But Kyler Murray, to me, is Russell Wilson. I have a strong comparison there. I'm a little higher on Wilson. But I think if you're going to trade Wilson, he's in his prime. He's still got years left to play. Why would you get another maybe Wilson? Maybe you're trying to look to go away from that. Maybe a guy like Haskins. So that's why I put him up there. But I'm open to anything there. It's just a suggestion that it could be Haskins with the 6th overall pick. Yeah.
If I'm the Seahawks, I would take this, but I don't know if the Giants would offer it because if he's going to be running out of his contract soon, they can sign him in 2 years. That's tough. Because, they're going to have to figure out what they're going to do with Eli. Do they just put him on the bench? Do they say goodbye to him? Do they hand him his retirement papers and say sign it?
Yeah.
That's tough, but if I'm the Seahawks and I was presented this, I would actually take this trade. But I just don't know if the Giants are willing to give up the wheelbarrow.
This is what this would fit in a wheelbarrow. But I think the Giants would do this. I think the Giants would rather have
because they can compete right now.
They can compete right now. They are a quarterback away.
They need some defense.
I was going to say they need some defense.
But if they're going to go debatably get the most, we'll say, playmaker of a quarterback in this league, they're a playoff team. No matter what defense shows up, they're a playoff team.
To me, Russell Wilson might be the best player in football. You look at the great quarterbacks, those guys always had offensive line. They always had weapons. Russell Wilson struggled to have weapons in offensive line at a lot of the time, especially when he won the Super Bowl. He had pieces here and there, but from what he's had compared to the other great quarterbacks, I think Russell Wilson's something else. So, and the Seahawks they're giving up an elite quarterback, and they're going to get a maybe quarterback. They're kind of going in rebuild mode, so they're taking away possible wins. And remember, they just made the playoffs. So
the Giants' offense would be unreal.
Yeah, it'd be very good.
It'd be pretty
unreal. Scary. Oh my God.
Their offensive line isn't the best, mainly on the right side. But it's something they can do in free agency. But they know they're getting a quarterback that can deal with
pressure.
Yeah.
I was just about to say that he can scramble. He can extend plays. Whereas Eli, we were watching some Eli film earlier today, and he tripped over Saquon's legs and almost fumbled the ball. The guy's unathletic, and there was no pressure. He just tripped over Saquon. I think it's fair. I just don't know. It's going to take some balls to do it.
I know Pete Carroll has some balls.
Has a
on
wheelbarrow?
him. Yeah, for his balls.
If you're the Seahawks, do you if you're both teams, do you do this?
If I'm the Giants, yes, I value draft picks so high too, and I think the 6th overall pick. Actually, you know what? I wouldn't do this if I was either team. Now I'm thinking about it, because the Seahawks made the playoffs. Did any of us think the Seahawks were going to make the playoffs the way they were sat this year? I don't think we did, because they don't really have anything else. Some guys stepped up. So they're able to do what they're doing with some young players that stepped up. And they have the cap space. Even with Russell Wilson, they can still sign him in the future. They can, fill those holes, get back to the playoffs. They can make this back into a contending team. The Giants' sake, that's a lot of draft picks. I know Russell Wilson's definitely worth them, but I've been a fan of not taking a quarterback with the first round pick this year. I'm a fan of drafting the pieces for your future quarterback. We got some damn good quarterbacks coming in the future drafts. So I think you asked me the question, if I'm there, I get ready for my future quarterback and get one of those ones that are, most likely going to be good. So I actually would not do this as either team, but I think this.
But when those quarterbacks are ready to come to the league, you also have an aging offense. You have Odell. We'll see if he's still going to be on the team at that point.
It's a year or two away,
I suppose. But then, yeah,
Odell's hair will be gray. No,
I'm thinking Trevor Lawrence. That's 2 years though.
Trevor Lawrence.
And if you're able to get your pieces, so the only thing you need is quarterback, you can trade up then and make sure you get your quarterback. I think that's the way to go. But so this is part 1. If the Seahawks did this, I see them doing a deal like I said, they can still draft this guy even with this other scenario. They can draft the quarterback. They don't have to draft him. They can get this guy I'm about to give them, or they can do both. They were linked to Jacoby Brissett last year. They were trying to trade for Brissett last year. And let me break down the picks first. Something very interesting I'm about to mention, though. So the Seahawks would get Jacoby Brissett from the Colts, and the Colts, they want a lot for him, they said. They don't really want to part ways with him, and that's because Andrew Luck could get hurt at any time. Brissett knows the offense. He's starting caliber quarterback. So they don't really want to part with him, so you'd have to give up a little bit here. You'd have to give up quite a bit with 2nd and a 5th-round pick to the Colts. The reason I put Jeffrey Simmons up there, Jeffrey Simmons is a top 10 pick, but he just tore his ACL. For some reason, I see a team like the Colts getting them because they have a lot of young talent. They can win now. They've shown that even with the young talent. They'd be willing to invest in a guy like Jeffrey Simmons, who is an elite prospect but has the injury, and especially if they get more picks to add on what they already got. This would give them 3 second-round picks total. So they would be a team that would take a risk on him, in my opinion. When the Seahawks get Jacoby Brissett. But the weird thing I was going to mention was that the Seahawks talked to the Colts about trading for Brissett last year and during the trade deadline, which I find very strange because the Seahawks haven't valued the backup quarterback position. They haven't valued it. They never had a very good backup quarterback, and they've also had the most healthy quarterback in football in Russell Wilson. Why all of a sudden were they trying to trade for a starting caliber backup quarterback?
They got Paxton Lynch. You kidding me?
But why? Isn't that weird to you?
It is interesting.
Because maybe this Russell Wilson stuff is true.
Maybe it's been happening longer than we
Maybe
know.
he wants to go to the Giants or somebody after his contract's up, so they have to trade him or something. It's a little weird. So I think that's definitely true that they looked into getting a guy like Brissett. So I thought that was very interesting. So if they move out from Russell Wilson, maybe they can get him. But I've heard the Colts front office, Ballard said they don't want to move on from Jacoby Brissett, and I understand why, because like I already mentioned, Luck could get hurt at any time, and they have a starting caliber backup quarterback that knows the offense already. There's teams out there trying to find a backup, and they can't do it because there's not enough of them. And you see their quarterbacks getting hurt, and then they're in trouble too. So I don't know if the Colts do it. I don't think they do it because I've heard from Ballard that they don't really want to, but this would be a pretty good offer, a 2nd and a 5th.
I mean, obviously like you were saying, the deal before this has to go down first. But I don't know. The Colts are kind of in the driver's seat on this. I think they could ask for more. I think they could honestly ask for more. And you see a team like, say, the Seahawks make that trade, trading away Russell, and they're getting these picks. They got picks to trade. I think you'd be foolish not to ask for more.
Yeah, but is Brissett's value for more picks? I think that's plenty of picks right there.
Yeah, I mean, his value is kind of like unknown still. I think he's pretty good. And he's got a ceiling on him too. So, it'd be interesting. I'm just curious about like why the Seahawks were linked to him. It's very interesting. But I have one more deal, and it's another Brissett deal because this is one that kind of had to have the last one happen. So since Brissett is an interesting one, and I don't know if he gets traded, but it's an interesting one because he's a starting caliber backup quarterback. I think that this is one that could happen, and it's an interesting one because the Panthers could be looking for a quarterback because Cam Newton is hurt. So Brissett was that guy that was traded for when Luck was hurt. I think Brissett could be a guy like this, and it's the same deal here, 2nd and 5th round, and a guy to me that could fit the Colts, so they could be looking to because they need an important backup then. Tyree Jackson from Buffalo really makes sense there. That could be if they went for Brissett, that would make sense as a potential backup.
I don't know if you'd want to trade those picks for a backup quarterback. I don't know. That's just me. I understand that Cam's hurt, but it's a lot for a backup quarterback.
Yeah, that's true. And the Colts did it too. I don't remember what the exact picks were, but they traded from the Patriots. He came from the Patriots, but then he's a trade piece after that if Cam Newton's healthy. Yeah,
It's a big if.
Kind of want to know what Pete's thoughts are.
Like if it's a good deal.
Pete's just joining us now because you didn't hear his voice. The very last deal. The very last deal.
You guys didn't let me talk.
Didn't let me
My
talk.
mic was muted this whole time.
Oh. I mean, I think it'd work out well for both teams. It's a little 2nd and 5th's a little steep for a 2nd round or for a backup quarterback, but
Do we go through all the deals real quick just for Pete?
No.
Yeah, I think it's too much.
Too much?
Yeah.
We got.
it would be good for Pete, but I don't think the fans want to see it.
Yeah, we can go through it off camera.
All right, what do you? There's the Titans one. I'll give him that because he's a
the
Titans
Titans
guy.
one.
Deshaun Jackson for a 4th round pick. Would you do it?
Yes or no are the only answers to this question.
I don't know.
The room was split on this one. I said no.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'd trade a 4th for him.
That's a no from the Titans insider.
He's getting old.
Okay.
Congratulations, Tennessee. You did not get him.
What's this? Who's up there on the picture?
It's Manuel Hall. It's an option for the Bucs to get for a replacement. But yeah, that's gonna do it for all the trades. Let me know if you have any. I want to see your guys' trade scenarios. Bash us if you want. Let us know your thoughts. Best trade you saw.
Worst trade you saw.
Worst trade you saw.
Again, these were just we were just brainstorming. These are not like this is gonna happen. So like,
So calm
you
down.
could back off, right?
Trade scenarios.
Trade scenario.
If you're looking for some free agency action, some free agency movement, we have plenty of videos on that, predicting landing spots and where guys might go. Also, check all of those out. We got mock drafts, all kinds of fun stuff. So if you don't subscribe to the channel, please do so. 20K is our goal. Click the like button. Click the notification button. That'll be all much appreciated. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everyone, for your support. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.